Hey y'all, welcome back. I'm Shayna Cersei, and I'm so excited to paint with you today. So today we're going to be doing another watercolor journal page, and my inspiration is being drawn from the fall foliage, the leaves that are falling all over my yard right now. So lots of different beautiful shapes and colors. So I brought a few in as inspiration. We're just going to paint a bunch of different leaf shapes and colors and play a little bit with wet on wet. And I'm going to be using, as far as supplies today, I'm going to be using my Bao Hong watercolor sketchbook. There's 100% cotton paper, 140 pound cold press, about a 6x9 size. I have today my Cadmium watercolors. So this is a set, a pocket set of Cadmium watercolor paints. These are student grade paints, so very accessible to a lot of folks. 12 colors in here, as well as I have my water, my paper towel, and I have a silver black velvet brush today. And then I also have a pencil. I think I'm going to use this a little bit, just a standard number 2 mechanical pencil. So let's get started. Let's create some leaf shapes and then start filling them in with some beautiful color. So I have 3 kind of different shapes. I don't have any oak trees outside. I was looking for an oak an oak shaped leaf, but I couldn't find one, so I might just draw one of those. But here are a bunch of different shapes. So let's start with just getting the shapes out on the page. So we're going to do this 3, and you don't have to draw these out. You could certainly paint these. So, but I'm going to draw today. So I'm going to start with, and I guess I should draw a little bit darker so you can see my outlines. There we go. So we have that. And one of the best things you can do when practicing is to find yourself some observable material. So whatever it is you're painting, whether you're painting a piece of glass, like a coffee cup or a vase or something like that, or a leaf or an orange or an apple or a particular flower, one of the best things you can do is to go find one and make observations about it. It doesn't mean you have to paint it realistically exactly how it is, but having it in front of you and being able to make observations about the shape, the size, the texture, the color is going to be really helpful to you. So even if you're just using them for inspiration and not necessarily using them to try to paint it exactly how it exists in nature. All right, so I'm going to do this shaped leaf, and I have 2 here. You can tell that it was raining outside, so it's still wet, still damp. Okay, so just observing here. Again, I'm not trying to do exactly what it is, but it has 3 main points at the top and then 2 tiny little points at the bottom here that are kind of coming out. In my mind, if I drew this from my memory, most likely I would draw these much larger at the bottom. But now that I have it in front of me, all right, so I'm going to start with a point at the top, and then there's going to be like one over here and one over here. Actually, the top one's going to be way up here. So my job is to get from up here, this pointy triangle at the top. I'm going to draw like jagged lines, and then they're going to come back out this way, all the way down here, and a little one at the bottom. So these lines are really, really jagged. So I'm just going with that. And then kind of taking another look because we're a little lopsided here. But if I do observe this center, it is very squared off, which in my mind, it's not like that, but I just let my pencil kind of follow my eye in the shape. And that's what I got. And then I was like, that doesn't quite look right. But in fact, that is how it is. There we go. And then this has a nice substantial stem at the bottom here. It's got veining that runs up through it. Okay. And then what else do we have here? I have this much, excuse me, this much wider one here, also with very jagged edges, but I'm not going to play those up as much. In here, what I'm noticing is it's got a scoop down, and the tendency might be just to make it rounded off at the bottom, but I'm going to scoop down, make it wide. I have to get rid of my clip here for a minute. There we go. And this has lots. I'm just going to draw all these little veins in. And we'll just leave the pencil in. You could do ink and wash as well. You could do ink in here. There we go. So we have 3 pretty leaves, and now we can play with paint and color. And like I said, you don't even have to draw them out. You could just paint these shapes very loosely on your page as well. All right, so these, for colors, I have, this is a cadmium yellow. This is a lemon yellow. Let's pull out some of that. The cadmium yellow is just a slightly warmer version. I have a yellow ochre in here, and I have alizarin crimson and burnt sienna. Definitely going to use those. Burnt sienna's down here. All right, so let's see. Here we have burnt sienna, which is a very earthy orange color. I have my alizarin crimson. I have cadmium yellow. I have some lemon yellow, which is a brighter, kind of cooler yellow color, which we might stick with just cadmium yellow. Let's see. There's some green in these. Let's pull out some sap green. Not my favorite green in the whole world, but I think it'll be fine when it's mixed with all of these other colors. So there's kind of our color palette that we're going to play with. We'll definitely throw in, oh, I don't have Payne's gray in this palette. I'm going to cheat. And I'm going to pick up some Payne's gray from my core palette. You can make a Payne's gray from this pocket palette by just mixing colors. So if you haven't seen my color mixing videos, go check those out. Maybe I'll do a new one soon just so it comes back to the top. Okay, so let's start to play with our yellows and greens. I'm going to start over here. I'm going to do a nice wash. And I guess I'm just leaving the lines for now. I'm going to pick up some green and drop that in. So I get that kind of mid-change. And then I'm also going to pick up, oh, I don't think I picked up any yellow ochre before. I'm going to pick up some yellow ochre. So let's add that to the, this is a very earthy yellow. I'm going to pick up some yellow ochre from here. So if you like these colors in this palette, this is a really great kind of affordable entry-level student grade palette, one of the better student grade palettes, I think. And I am also going to, I might have to let this dry a little bit. So if you don't like your green, like I feel like this sap green is just too bright, I'm going to mix it with a little alizarin crimson that's over here. And it gives me more of an olive color. So I want to speckle in some of this green just with the tip of my brush. Now these are still really damp, so I might wait for it to dry a little more to put in a few more speckles that are a little harder, like they don't lose their shape, they don't bleed or blend out. All right, let's go to this leaf over here. Now this one has lots of red in it. I'm going to start with yellow though. And just do a big wash of yellow. And I'm sure there are also leaves this shape that are yellow. These just happen to turn bright red in my yard. All right, now I'm going to start to introduce the alizarin crimson. And we're going to get beautiful oranges. And this, the leaves themselves, they actually have a blue undertone to them. Alizarin crimson's a great color because it is a slightly cooler red color, but these have lots of blue undertones. I'm just not going to do that. I'm going to make this a very bright red and orange. Might add a little Payne's gray to it. And we're just going to get a little yellow towards the bottom. But mostly orangey. And we'll get to stems. Don't you worry. You know, let's pick up some burnt sienna. Can add that in. Let's stipple in some color. And then I'm going to pick up a little Payne's gray over here. I'll mix that with burnt sienna. Kind of along the edges. I'm at a slightly different angle today, the camera, I was hoping, but it seems to give off a lot of glare from the water. So sorry about that, I might change it for the future videos. There you go, so you can see a little better. All right, I'm going to let this one dry and then we might revisit it. Let's put a little bit of the speckles down here of this darker color. And you know, I'm even going to, well, no, I'm not going to throw in green. I'm just going to make an orangier color. Just took some of my yellows and alizarin crimson. Pulling out a little color, blending them together. All right, so let's let that dry. And we'll move on to this one over here, which is also lots of yellows and greens. So this one, I'm actually going to paint the whole thing green first. and we'll see how we like this process. So with watercolor, it's great because you can do a lot of layering, and whatever you do on the bottom layer is going to interact with the top layer. So if I make this all green on the bottom and then I add layers of color on top, they are going to mix and mingle with each other, especially if they're still wet. They're going to mix with each other for sure. So we're going to have a very greenish yellow. I could even get as crazy as like painting between these pencil lines and giving the paint a lot of direction. I'm going to pick up some yellow ochre towards the bottom. And you can see, even though I'm not being super careful as I paint in this direction, it's kind of bleeding and blending out, but it is creating this texture this way. And I'm going to take, let's see, a little burnt sienna, I think, and put it on a couple edges. And then even if you wanted to pull out some color. So pulling out color is great. When you pull it out, you have to wipe your brush off because look at all this extra paint that I pulled off. So if I pull out here and then I try to pull out here and pull out here, I'm just muddying the colors. Get rid of the paint. So just adding a little more light. And we're going to just put a little emphasis on this center bit. And then we're also, so I'm picking up green and burnt sienna. And this is damp, so it's wet on damp right now. It's actually kind of damp on damp, so I'm not really wetting the paint very much. There's not a lot of water in my brush. I'm kind of picking up almost dry paint. Just enough water to make it go. There we go. So now we have this nice texture in here. I'm actually going to take some of this. This is now damp. It's not completely dry, so my lines won't be harsh, but they will stay quite a bit. And I'm just adding in, so I picked up burnt sienna and some of that green again, and I'm adding in these lines. Again, this is damp. This works really well on 100% cotton paper. It may not work as well on cellulose paper. You may get some funky things. Just want this to be just a little bit darker in there. All right, and let's put in, I'm going to put in our stem. So this is just burnt sienna. Let's add a little water to this. The same thing over here. And I'm going to take some of that Payne's gray and just add a few little darker tones to some edges of the stem. All right, let's bring some stem over here to these guys as well. This one's a little lighter, a little more yellow. And you know, I feel like these leaves could use a little bit more, another layer. Remember how I said before I wanted to introduce more of that green? I'm going to first do another wash of yellow right over top. So just basically deepening all of these colors. So this is what you consider a glaze when you're putting a light wash of color over already existing color. So just cadmium yellow over top, just to punch up the intensity. Look at that, beautiful. And then I'm going to take this sap green, I'm going to mix it with this burnt sienna that's kind of hanging out over here, getting more of that olive green color. We're going to throw some of this right towards the bottom and the sides. Again, kind of just doing what we did before, but in another layer so we can boost up the intensity. I like the little bits of puddling. I know because my paper is 100% cotton, it's going to kind of diffuse itself over time on wet, and I think I'm going to be really happy. There we go. Yeah, that looks much better. And again, I can still wait for it to dry again and go back in with some darker green. So another way to get darker green is to take this sap green that's in here and we can add a tad of Payne's Gray from my core set. So for those of you who are new, I paint primarily, a lot of my videos I paint with Core, Q-O-R by Golden. But I've been switching it out with this Cadmium student grade set. A lot of people have access to this one, but not this one. And then there's a million other versions and brands out there. So don't feel like you have to paint with the same brand as me. A lot of times you can find similar colors or exact same colors in other brands. It really just depends. They have different formulas for how much pigment they put in and for how much their particular binders. So the binder is what makes it paint, holds it together. And Core has a very specific binder that is proprietary to them versus what Cadmium uses versus Daniel Smith versus Holbein or Sennelier or all the other different brands out there. So there are some bigger differences between student grade and a professional, what's considered a professional grade paint. Professional grade paint is going to have a lot more pigment to binder ratio versus student grade will have more binder to pigment ratio. So it often takes more layers to get the same quality or intensity from the student grade paint. I've obviously run my hand through something and now I have little spatters of brown down there. Wonderful. So anyway, that's kind of why I have this little, so I'm cheating and I'm stealing one of the colors that I don't have in my Cadmium set. You can also switch these out if for some reason like you don't like this set all came together in this pack here, but the little pans are removable if I can get one to come out. So they can come out and be replaced with the same color if you just need to replace one color, or they can be swapped out for different colors. So if you want to add a Payne's Gray, you could say like take out your white. I'm not a huge fan of white. I use it every once in a while, but you could take out your white and swap it in for like a black or a Payne's Gray if you didn't want to mix your black and Payne's Gray every time. Although I'm a big proponent of learning your basic color theory to mix your colors. All right, so the only other thing that I might do is add, like I did here, is go back to these and add some little character of a few little imperfections. Let's see, let's make a dark kind of red. Oh, that was a lot of Payne's gray. The other thing is it takes one little swipe of the brush on these core paints to get like more paint than you actually need, versus the student grade ones, you really have to kind of scrub and scrub and scrub a little bit to get all the paint you need. And again, that comes down to the pigment binder ratio and the transparency of the color. So I'm going to take this dark red color that I made. I'm going to put some little character on here, some dots and dashes. You can see, fill in a little bit. I'm going to rinse my brush off. Blend out the edge of this. But I really love this light. I don't want to lose that light that I have in there. So I don't want to go too far down. And actually the putting the darker color on top and having this contrast makes the lighter part look even brighter. Then I'm going to take this, I'm going to give it, see if I can do this without making a total mess. Do a few little flicks. Yep, we're going to get flicks everywhere. All right. I'll let those dry, those little imperfections. This one's a little big. And see what happens. All right, I think I'm done. I think I'm done. There we go. Our beautiful little fall leaves. I did say I think I was gonna try to do not an acorn shape, oak tree shape, but I ran out of room. But this was a lot of fun. I love using nature as inspiration. So go ahead and take a look outside for your inspiration. Bring it inside with you. Use it to guide your practice. So you can see they look similar, but they're not identical. They're not hyper realistic, but it was a lot of fun to inspire me like through the process. This one, the colors are very different, but we use the shape. Here, maybe this one's a little better, closer to green. We use the shape and a lot about what we learned about the shape and the veining and things like that to inspire this piece. All right. Thanks, y'all. Take care. And don't forget to check out the description for links to supplies and materials. If you're wondering about anything, whether it's the Cotman set or the core set, you can learn more about them. Leave a comment, like the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so, and go ahead and share with a friend. It's always helpful to get more people inspired and interested in watercolor, because I love it and you love it if you're here. So happy painting, y'all, and I'll see you for the next page very soon.